Hi, I want to have a GAB sesh, and today I want to talk about shedding identities that no longer serve us. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I think a lot about identity and sort of giving ourselves permission to be the people that we want to be. And I had the urge a couple days ago to get my motorcycle running and take photos of it and list it online for sale. And I just had the sudden urge to do it, and I followed through with it. We had a 70-degree day. I took it out of the garage, I got it running, it started up. Felt great to be able to do that. And I feel really good about this decision, but I've been thinking about it a lot because one of the first things that I wanted to do when I got done with grad school and got my first big girl job, I was like, I'm buying a motorcycle and I'm learning how to ride it. And I grew up in a rural area where we rode four-wheelers and dirt bikes, and that was one of the main forms of fun for us. So I love doing that. I love going fast, love being on 2 or 4 wheels, and it just felt like something that I really wanted to do at that time. And I did it. I bought a motorcycle, I signed up for a course, got my motorcycle license, very slowly eased into getting comfortable on my first motorcycle. And then after a couple of years, I upgraded to a bigger one. And I feel like I wanted that to be part of my identity. Like, I really wanted to be a cool motorcycle girly. And I know a lot of people who are cool motorcycle women, and they're badass and they go on long trips and they know how to fix their own bikes. And I think that's so friggin' cool. And I feel like I am the type of person, and I feel like any chaotic creative or maybe ADHD multi-passionate person can relate to this. I am interested in so many things, and I pull myself in a lot of different directions because I'm genuinely pretty happy doing most things. Like, if it's an activity and I get to stay curious and I get to move my body or I get to solve a problem, I'm usually happy. But because of that, it's been hard to identify which things make me the most fulfilled, which things I like the most. And I think that is how we tap into the path to our biggest, juiciest lives. And I'm talking like the dream life that we don't even really want to admit that we want. I am trying to admit those things to myself, those things that I want, and then really make small tweaks to go in that direction. And I think when I graduated college, I thought of being a motorcycle girly as like being cool. And that's right, it is cool. I feel very cool that I know how to do it. But I think what I was chasing when I was in my early 20s was something that was more along the lines of, I want to be perceived as cool. Not like I want to be cool and feel cool for myself, but I want to be perceived as cool. So I'm going to do these cool things and put myself in proximity to people that are doing cool things. Now, I don't think that's bad, and I don't think that I was being intentional or intentionally like trying to seek validation externally. I think that I just have a lot more clarity on the type of life that I want to live for me now as I approach my late 30s. And I think we're always going to seek validation. That's just a human thing. But as much as we can give that validation to ourselves, I think the happier and more fulfilled we'll be with our lives. So I've just really been thinking about this selling of the motorcycle and shedding that layer of my identity. Like, I'm not a motorcycle girly. The things that I want to do more are my ceramics, my quilting, decorating my home, going thrifting, spending time with my friends, playing games. Like, I just prioritize those things over the motorcycle, and that's okay. That's just me figuring out, okay, at this phase in my life, these other things are going to take priority, and that's okay. And I also know that this will not be the last motorcycle that I have. I can always get another one. One of my big dream, juicy life goals is to live in France someday. And I have this vision of myself like having a little cafe racer and a small motorcycle and just using that to get around my little village and go buy my baguettes and my cheese and like gab with the people at the coffee shop. Like, I can see that so clearly in my brain. And so like I just think that that's something that I'll revisit at another time in my life, because our identities are always fluid. And I like thinking of it like that because I feel like so many of us set goals for ourselves in terms of like what we want to achieve in our lives, and then maybe we achieve that thing and it's not serving us anymore, but because it was at one point a goal and we worked so hard to get there, we're like, I can't possibly change this because I worked so hard. I put so much time into pursuing this. But I actually think it's really great to reflect and to continue to grow and evolve. And like our path can look like forward and a loop and going back, tracking and all over the place. And I think that the more we explore and allow ourselves to change and grow and stay curious and shed those identities that no longer serve us and start chasing other dreams, that's just going to give us more and more information on the type of life that we're living and more information on what actually fulfills us the most. Because like my goal in my entire life is just to live a big juicy life, like try the things that I'm interested in or curious about and reflect. You know, I love to reflect. I'm constantly noodling about things and like making things into bigger deals, like selling my motorcycle into talking about shedding identity. I posted something about selling my motorcycle online and someone said, it doesn't have to be about identity. It can just be a form of transportation. And that's true. But I love to think about the reasons why I make decisions. And the reason that I pursued being a motorcycle girly was because it's badass to ride a motorcycle and to know how to do that. Like, I'm so proud of younger me for pursuing that and doing it, even though people were like, oh, it's dangerous. It is dangerous, but so many things are dangerous. And I had a great time. And just the last couple of years, I haven't wanted to ride it as much. 2 summers ago, and also I live in Michigan, so I get like 4 good months where I can ride it regularly. 2 summers ago, I injured my back and I wasn't really able to sit for extended periods of time. So I didn't really ride it much then. Last summer, I needed to replace the clutch and it took me a long time to like work up the energy to do that and have my friend help me. And I got it running last year and I maybe took it for 1 ride and I got it started up this year and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to let this go for now. I want to prioritize other things in my life. Yeah, I don't think it's time. It's not time right now in my life to ride the motorcycle regularly. I'm chasing a bunch of other things. I'm working on a bunch of projects I'm really excited about, and I don't want to spread myself so thin that I don't have capacity for the things that bring me the most joy. And I think that's a really cool realization. And like no decision is permanent, right? Like I could sell it and then at the end of the summer be like, why did I do that? I'll buy another one. Motorcycles are a lot more inexpensive than cars, especially the older ones that I have purchased in the past. So I wanted to talk about this. I think it's really important, and I think it's basically it is basically boiling down to the idea that we have to give ourselves permission to pursue the things that we're feeling drawn toward. And at that time in my life, in my early 20s, I was drawn toward riding a motorcycle. And I met some really cool people through doing that. And I have so much respect and I pay more attention when I'm driving in my car to motorcycles. And I also know some motorcycle builders that are really cool, and like their form of play and art is building motorcycles. Amazing. Honored to know those people. And I can also recognize that like that's not my form right now. But as I'm talking about identity, I also wanted to share some insight, because this is top of mind, because I've been talking to a lot of friends about self-confidence and self-worth and identity, because these things are fascinating to me, and tying my creative practices to these topics is my favorite thing. I had a friend ask me the other day, do I know the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem? And I did not know the difference. And she was listening to a podcast or a meditation or something like that. And self-confidence, she said, the podcast or whatever she was listening to said, the self-confidence is your ability to see yourself achieving the things that you set out to do. So success, whatever success looks like for you. And self-esteem is your perception of your worth or your perception of self. And I've really been thinking about that a lot, because in my head, before she told me that, I would have assumed that self-confidence and self-esteem are kind of interchangeable. And I feel like a very confident person. I feel like I have a good sense of self. But I actually think that I have a lot of self-confidence. Like, I have a problem-solving brain and a can-do attitude, and I try a lot of things and approach a lot of things with curiosity, and it gives me the tools to figure out how to solve the problems that I set out to solve. So whether that's like, I want to make a lamp out of clay, or I want to figure out how to get a desk from my basement into my upstairs bedroom by myself, I usually can figure out how to do it, and I feel very confident in my ability to do so. But then the sense of self and self-worth piece of things, I was like, oh my gosh, these are the things that I always work on in therapy, because even though I'm very like confident and outgoing and like feeling true to myself, that has been a continuous journey that I've been working on very hard for the last 5 years. And so it's interesting, because I feel like, oh, I actually don't need to work on the self-confidence. I feel really good about where I'm at with that. It's the self-worth of like understanding the foundation. And when I brought this question up to my therapist, she described it as a house, which I loved. So the foundation of the house is your self-worth or your self-esteem. And that's kind of like setting the bar for how you feel about yourself. And then self-confidence or your identity is the rest of the house, like the different rooms in the house. And she described identity as being fluid and changing. Like, we can redecorate our spaces. The office can become the guest bedroom, and that TV room can become the office, and the creative space can become, the workout room. Depending on the things that you're interested in and the things that you're pursuing, things can change. But that foundation needs to be really strong if you want to be, sure of yourself. And I loved that analogy of the house, because I feel like how I've been approaching it is I'm trying to find my identity, or have been in the past, through all of my creative play, my creative practices. So thinking about things like, I want to call myself an artist. I couldn't do that when I started therapy. I said to my therapist, like, I didn't go to art school. I don't have formal training. I don't feel valid in calling myself an artist. I absolutely do now. I think so many of us are artists, and that's truly what I work on now, is helping people recognize that we are all creative. It just takes a lot of different forms for a lot of different people. And that identity piece was kind of like what I have been searching for and working on. Like, oh, I'm going to try all these things to figure out what labels I can give myself. Can I call myself an artist, a ceramicist, a quilter? Can I call myself a really good friend? Can I call myself a communicative person, a vulnerable person? Those are traits that I was working on, and I feel like I've successfully achieved all of those, and continue to work on that, because we're always growing. But she said, when you're doing that without working on the self-esteem piece, the worth piece, your house is upside down and it's unstable. And so I think I have kind of always tied my identity to my worth. Like, I am a quote unquote good person when I have a good job and I'm doing this and X, Y, and Z. When Instead, we should be able to recognize our worth as a whole because we're human, and we don't have to exchange anything, exchange labor for our worth in this world. And so that conversation had happened, and then I'm thinking about identity, and I'm thinking about how I crafted these identities for myself in the past based on other people's perception of me. And you know, I tried a lot of things based on, oh, what does this person I have a crush on likes this activity? I'm gonna like this activity. And generally I did. Like I said earlier, I really enjoy a lot of things. I generally have fun with any sort of activity, with any sort of people. But what is the most fulfilling to me? I had to take time, years, to really reflect and like make subtle changes in my life without realizing I was doing this, right? Like this is all me reflecting back and being able to articulate it, although just like my life, my story today is going all over the place, and that is hopefully why you like the GAB Sesh videos. But yeah, I think I'm thinking a lot about identity, and I'm really proud of myself for working to understand what most fulfills me and really trying to clear out the things that might be fun but are not the most fulfilling, because we only have a finite amount of time. And so if I'm giving my time to my motorcycle when I really yearn to create something out of clay, that's doing a disservice to myself. Another friend told me this week, clarity is kindness, and I really liked that, and I think it can be applied to a lot of different scenarios, but I'm trying to think of it in terms of clarity to myself, clarity in terms of figuring out what activities are the most fulfilling, getting really clear on that, and only pursuing those is kindness to myself. I'm not burning myself out trying a million things. So that is what I am thinking about right now. Selling my motorcycle. I'm gonna go to the ceramic studio right now, and I'm gonna feel good about it. So if you're yearning for something else, even though you have achieved something that you were working for or yearning for in the past, that's okay. We are always growing and changing. I think the best people in my life are the most curious and willing to acknowledge that we're ever changing. And I think that's really beautiful. And I love thinking about identity and perception of self. And I have a lot of art projects in the works that are kind of like the physical manifestations of me noodling on this. So would love to know what you think, if any of this even made any sense. Yeah, here to chat about it. Here, I'm thinking GAB Sesh is really where the YouTube is going, because that feels the most fun. Anytime I have something I am noodling on, it's usually going to take me at least 10 minutes to kind of talk through it, and this is the perfect platform for that. So thanks for being here. If you don't already like, subscribe, follow, share, all those things, please consider doing so. If you have someone that you think would benefit from listening to my ramblings about identity and self-worth and self-confidence, send him this video. And I'll be back soon. Bye.